Hello, Minecrafters, and welcome to episode 50 of our Direwolf 20 Let's Play series. Can't believe we've made it to 50 already. Time sure has flown. Last episode we were working on our applied energistics. We've got this area done with our interfaces, our molecular assemblers, our crafting coprocessors. Last episode... Nope, episode before that, we put in our alloy smelters. Maybe it was last. Maybe I got all this done last episode. I can't remember. I'll have to go back and check. But anyways, we've gotten our alloy smelters in. We've got our sag mills in. Then we fully automated our inscribers. And this time we're going to work on storage. And I know that the ever so famous Soren drive is very popular. And I believe somebody even mentioned the possibility of putting that in. But I'm actually going to go about this in a slightly different way. And I was going to run that there. But I need to move that. Yeah, let me get that done real quick. Open that up, take that one out, pop that out. And then I can put the facade back there. And I think this is right because, yeah, that's where I'm running the power. And that's all on the same. That should do. Yeah, that should be fine there. And really. Okay. But what I'm wanting to do is put in some drives. And so for drive storage, we'll be using the ME drives, of course. And I want to put one there. And that's what my setup's going to look like. Now, if you'll notice and remember from last episode, we've got 2 channels remaining. Out of our, what? Let's see, we've got 8. So out of 16, we've only got 2 remaining. So we're already using 14. Now, I could run a whole nother P2P over here and bring another, 8 or 32 or whatever. I could come off, I could also tie into my dense cable there. I could knock the block out from under it and go under and kind of string it around like that. I could, let's see, I could, instead of coming this way, I could come out the side over here and take that one under and around, and that would leave me this and go straight up. But since I do have 2 channels remaining, I want to see about going ahead and using those. So let's see. I think the best way to do that is if I put that block there and I get a storage bus. I believe that's what I want. I'm missing something. Oh, no, I'm not. It just didn't look like it was supposed to because I got to switch it to the interface. So I want to take the storage bus and place it against that. Now that uses another one of our channels. Then I can break this block and I'm going to put an ME interface here. Now this will not use another channel, because these are, while talking to each other, they're not part of the same network. This is what's considered a subnet or a subnetwork. It's a small network in and of itself that can talk to our main network. So then I want to put in a cable here. And do I have any fiber? No, I don't. I'm going to need to go get that. Now, if you know anything about the SSD, as he so affectionately likes to call it, the Super Soren drive, basically, Soren, who streams on Twitch TV and does quite a bit with Direwolf on Forgecraft 2, he came up with the Super Soren drive, and basically what it is, it's the ability to take a set of drives and infinitely add them without adding channels to your network. Now, if I'm not mistaken, the setup requires the use of a controller and a whole bunch of different things, and so I'm trying to simplify this a little bit. So I've got my fiber here, and as you can see, we're still not lit up because power cannot travel across this bridge. But if I put, let's see, do I want to put it? I'll put it here. And then I'll put that there. That should get power. And now you can see we've lit up with 7 channels. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1 for each of the drives. And then 1 for our ME interface. And so now we should have access. Let's see, I think I've got I've got that drive. So if I take and put this in here and come back down here to our ME terminal, you can see our stored items. Now just to verify that is what's in there, and now they're gone. Now that, the reason you can see that inventory is because that is actually down here from where we set up in a previous episode. So that is how we can add drives to our system, and all we used was 1 channel right there for the storage bus. And if I'm not mistaken, let's test something out real quick, because if I'm not mistaken, I can expand this infinitely as well. Let's see the best way to go with that. Do I have any more drives? Got 1 more. Okay. Well, if we're going to science this out, we may as well go ahead and do it right. And before I grab all that stuff, I need to make a couple of things. I need another interface. Did I cut off? Yeah, because I took my inscribers. Shoot. Well, we can manually run it. Let's see, which one was that? Shoot, I've got the one I need. Logic processor, that's the one made out of gold, so that's why I got gold. So I need logic, and that's you. So we can manually feed this thing real quick a few. Tell you what, once you set up auto processing or auto crafting, oh, okay. I guess it just lagged. Yep, because that's a logic press. Huh. Okay. Come back over here. We got that one. Where? Oh, there they are. Alright, so now we can run these through up at the top. And hope I've got enough of that stuff. I should. And we'll just run a few through just to make sure I've got enough. And there goes that. So now let's see what we got. And I should just need one of these, and that's ready to go. And I need a storage bus. Yay, everybody got that one. There's my interface. Okay, and how much room have I got? Oh. Let's see, that's for later, that's for later. I'll grab you and let's go see how this works out. Get my random block here. Pop that up there. Now just like this, I want to do the storage bus here. That's for later. Storage bus. I want to put that there. That will be our 8th channel. So now this is full. And so now I can break that. And then I'll take that and swap you over to this. Put you on top of there. And then I should be able to add these two. And I'll just plunk them down over here. Now you can see it killed this because it's routing through there. However, once we place this cable on here, it should straighten it back out after we get power on it. And I'll explain why, provided it works. Fun part about doing theory is you got to make sure it works before you explain it. Okay, put that there and that there. So now that should power this. Okay. Get that back up. Place you. Oh shoot, it's still going to that one. See, I thought it would come straight here because of the hop. Because it should have to hop through this to get there. It should come here first. But I could be wrong on that account. We might have to put it back here. Yep, I believe so. Okay, so we can't stack it like that. Okay, so then what I want to do is, where'd my block go? And see, this is all the fun stuff that you normally don't get to see with me just testing things out to see what may or may not work. Because this part I've actually not tried yet. Okay, I want the storage bus first. Okay, storage bus, that's our 8th channel. Then our interface there. Okay, I did not want it to talk to that one. Which I should be able to tell it not to once I place that. And this is where that gets a little odd. Okay, where'd my little fiber go? Okay, so that should keep it from tagging that. Well, actually, I don't want to do that. I want to try one of those, see if that'll work better. Okay. Now, put a drive here and one there. We'll put our fiber here, and that may. Okay. And then put that there and here. But I don't want that to talk. Oh, will you stop it? Okay, put another standoff. I'll put that there. Let's see. I don't like the looks of that just because I don't like all the channels showing here. So let me switch this real quick. I'll put that there instead. Okay, that looks better. That's a better showing of what we should have going on. And I'll just throw some of these in that one and some of these over here. And as you can see, they are lighting up. And the true test of this will be, how much do we show here? So there we go. All of that stuff is now showing up. So this is basically going to be, have the ability to continue on going. I kind of wish I could have stacked them up here. I know they were touching, but it was my understanding that you could stack them like that, but that the drive would automatically go to the closest network cable, which would have been, right here. But I might play around with that a little bit more and see if I can get it to work. But for now, we do have it working this way. And now that I'm looking at this, we can probably... Well, I can't because of the other cables. Yeah, with that one coming through there. Yeah, I'll just hook that back up the way it was. I got my post there, so I'll put that there. All right, that lights up. So, like I said, we can continue on back or continue over. I don't really see the need to, because if I get all this filled up, I got way too much stuff anyways. So, we now have the ability for storage. And I better get this stuff back to my house before I forget it, because I do still have a bunch of stuff running which requires storage. And I just happened to think about the fact that the disk for all of my metals, let's see, is here somewhere. I know it's one of these. That one. That's where all my ingots and stuff go, so I want to make sure it's in here. So that has our storage, and if you'll give me just a minute, we'll see what we're going to do next. I'll be right back. Okay, got about 10 minutes or so, so I don't really want to get into another build, but I did have a request, or actually I mentioned that I had said something about talking about what a P2P is. And so I'm going to see if I can, kind of give an example of what it is and why it's used. So we want to set down a controller here and get it fired up. Now, like we have said, the ME controller is where you get your channels from. And each face of the ME controller has 32 channels. Now, as we have also said, we have the smart cable and we have the dense cable. If I'll actually switch to it, which is that. And so this is, what we have as far as some of the cables. How are they named? ME Smart, ME Dense. Okay, ME Dense. So we have the ME Dense cable here, and that consists of 4 ME covered cables, 1 redstone, 1 glowstone for 1 ME Dense cable. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Just for this little bit right here is 16 of these. Well, 16 of is the equivalent of 16 of those. So it can get really expensive whenever you have to carry a long distance. So let's say that you're wanting to do some networking things, and you need a bunch of channels. And so you're trying to run all this down here. And so now you have 32 channels on each of these. So that's what, 96 channels down here. And let's say, when by the time you get to this block, you need to have 96 channels. So you would come in, and I'm just using this as a for instance. This is just mainly talking about a point that you have to get to. So that is a considerable amount of resources, as well as room to transport it all down there. So there is another way that you can do that, and that is with the P2P tunnel. So let's pull most of this back up, and I'll show you why we actually use the P2P tunnel. Okay, so, and actually, I will tell you now, we don't have to have these here, but I'm going to just leave them there for now, just for visual. So what we can do is we can take and put our P2P tunnel on each of these. And then we're going to come over here and do the same thing. Now, in order to get the data from down there to over here, all we have to do now is this. Nope, not there. Oh good, I'm gonna run out of smart cable. Well, may as well go make some more. Do I have any covered? Of course not. Give me smart cable, covered. Go. Throw you back in there. We'll turn you into smart. Go. Okay. Back to this. And as you can see, this is kind of off the cuff. I wasn't really planning on doing this. Oy, that was close. Okay, so now we pretty much have the same thing. The only other thing we have to do is address them. And that is where the memory card comes in. Basically what you have to do is when you see me come over here and shift right click this, actually I'll clear it first, and then shift right click, it is setting like the address of this one. And so then wherever I right click with this, now it loads the setting. So it's telling this one to talk to this one. And so then you clear it again, you shift right click there, and right click there, and load that one. And then you shift right, well, clear, shift right click, and now this would actually be a working network except for having to do the power jump. Really? Actually, yeah, let me get a fiber. And actually I'll get some more because I'm going to have that because I'm going to go ahead and make the next one. Wow, I don't have that set up to autocraft. That will be something we add as more of the autocrafting items. So I want to go here and I don't have that, so we'll go here and I'm out of that. So we'll go to that. And I'm not going to make more of that. There, that should do it. Okay, so the only other thing we have to do now this one, and this one, those original ones, they will be powered. And the reason is because they will get power off of the ME controller here. But just like our data will not go from here to here because it goes through it, the power won't either. So we still have to get power on this line, just like I did over there. So that is why we go in here and we put our fiber on here, and then we can just take our smart cable and do that. Now this will have power. And the reason this lights up is, as you can see, we have 4, 5, 6. 6 channels are being used. Now the reason is we've got 1, 2, 3, and then the matching 3 over there making 6. But like I said, what that does is it greatly reduces the amount of resources that you have to use. Now if you want to reduce this down even more, where's my wrench? There is another way you can do this. Which is more in line with the way I have it set up there. Okay, here's my P2Ps. So if you put it there, there, and there. Now you've done basically the same thing. You're taking the 32 channels that are on this side and you're going through this peer-to-peer. So then you run your smart cable there, here, and here. And you put your fiber on top, and you do that. Same thing. Now you can also come down here Now, I probably should have shown this with actual devices, but I'm not in creative and I don't have that many items to be able to display that many channels, which is actually one of the reasons I don't understand all the hype and all the frustration people seem to have over channels, because there really isn't need. And because I picked those up, we'll have to, have to tell them who's talking to who. Just like that. And as you can see, I've got 10 extra because of taking the dense cable out. And I mean, dense cable does certainly have its uses. One of the biggest things is, all right, let's take and back all this up. And I'll take that off and that off. Now let's say you're getting 32 channels down to this end. We're putting our P2P here. It's talking to, let's see, put my smart cable there and my P2P there. Okay, so we have a legitimate peer-to-peer right now. And so we're picking up 32 channels from this side going into the P2P, coming out the P2P here. Now we want to attach and use these 32 channels, but that can be a little bit difficult because there's a couple of different ways you can do it. One way you can do it is you can go back and put another peer-to-peer here and another one there, and link it all to that one, and so then you have 3 branches coming off of this, so you can come around. But another way you can do this is you can drop one dense cable right there. And so it carries 32 channels, which matches the 32 channels off of this side. And then you can come with your smart cable and come off of there, here, and there. And well, I could dig out the underside. Well, actually, I could do this. Move that to there. And put the cable anchors there. And I got to get short to get that other one in. Right there. And there, and then you can put that cable there. And so you would essentially have, that's 8, 16, and then another 8 and 16. There's your 32 channels. But you only used one dense cable. So anyways, to make a long story short, and I hope there's someone out there still awake after talking about this, but the basic use for peer-to-peer is getting data from this end to the other end cheaper. Now, something we can go into later, and I'm already over time just because I ramble. You don't necessarily have to just use this for data. And I'm not going to get into all of that right now, but the other thing you can do is you can send RF through here. If instead of an ME controller, if I had, I don't know, if I had this hooked up to my reactor, then the power from my reactor would go through that peer-to-peer network as well. And so then you could take and you could have, let's see, for instance, if that were a power port on the reactor, I could put a peer-to-peer network on that, run smart cable over here, and then I could come over here, move my block back where it was. Now, what I could actually do with this is that one and that one are already tied together. So then I clear, shift right click, and program that one. Now, if this were the power port on my reactor, and that's my ME controller, then I've got 32 channels coming in this side, and I'll have the power from my reactor coming in this side. So you can actually send power, you can send redstone signals. There's a lot of different things that you can send through a peer-to-peer network. So we might get into some of that later. That's actually a little bit higher level than I normally go. The majority of what I use the peer-to-peer network for is getting more data through a smaller area. Just like I did, if I can get my flight on, just like I did coming in here. So let's see. Essentially, we have all of this up here and everything down there coming in off of that side and that side. And then that is running everything down there. But if you noticed, I don't think, well, I know I've got a little bit of dense cable, but very little. And it saves you a boatload of money. But like right there, that's a dense cable. And that's the only one in this entire area. So anyways, I believe I'll have to cut it here. I hope that helps. I know some of this can be a little daunting. I mean, it actually makes me nervous not trying something before I come on the show and hoping that it will work. But hey, seems like everything worked out pretty good today. So it looks like next episode we may start moving some product over here, or I may head back over to the house. I may look at redesigning this. Oh, that is one thing I did. I upgraded a bunch of these to deep storage units because my better barrels they're not better. They're bigger, but they're not better than those. There are still some instances where I like the better barrels better than the deep storage. The deep storages are expensive now, though. So, anyways, one other thing. I have noticed every once in a while when I shift and hover over one of these, they'll flicker. And seems to be intermittent. And I mentioned that on one of my episodes, and I finally figured out what it is. And if you'll look at my map up in the top right hand corner, right now I'm running 56 frames per second. 60, 58. I'm running into some frame rate issues. Out here, you can see I dropped down to 38 and then I'm up to 78. Doing some research, I have found that the Direwolf 20 pack is not an efficient pack. It runs a lot of things. There's some really cool mods, and for the most part they work well, but some of them either aren't configured quite like they should be, or they're not updated, or what have you. Now, I don't know for sure if I'm going to be leaving Direwolf 20 pack and starting something different, but like right now I'm at 30 frames per second. I'm going to experiment with possibly looking at some different recording software to see if that might alleviate it, because I do know that I have seen it low, and as soon as I cut off the record, my frame rate drops, or my frame rate goes back up. So I may look into that. But anyways, I just wanted to give you a heads up. That was what I had found. There's a possibility that I may look at a different pack. But for now, we're going to keep going along with this. I'm going to try a couple of different avenues, see what I can do to get my frame rate up to try and stick with the Direwolf 20, because I do like the pack. But anyways, just wanted to give you a heads up on that. If you want to, down below in the comments, let me know if you're playing a mod pack. Let me know what you're playing. If you're playing a Direwolf 20, great, post it up. If you're playing Mod Sauce or something totally off the wall like Argarian Skies or Material Energy or whatever, let me know what y'all are playing. So if I do need to change, then I can try and, match up to what other people are doing, and, we can kind of ride the same road together. But anyways, I do need to go ahead and cut it off because I am running way over time. So anyways, take care. God bless. Have a good one.